Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our webinar today on deploying high availability PostgreSQL clusters with PGCRS, simplified three-node setup. I'm your host, Annie, and today I have with me Semab Tariq, who is the PostgreSQL Consultant at Stormatics, as the speaker of this session. So before we start, I would like to share the usual housekeeping items. The recording of this webinar will be shared once it's done. Feel free to use the Q&A feature or the webinar chat to ask the queries. The questions will be answered in our Q&A segment near the end. And that's all from my end. Over to Sama.
Um, all right. Thank you, Annie. Um, High availability is one of the topic that has always been very close to my heart. And I really feel very passionate about it. And of course, today we are going to talk about it. So in today's world, everyone wants their application to be available 24/7 for their customers. While having 24/7 availability sounds really great, um, but in reality, it is a quite challenging task as well that require a lot of hard work, careful planning, and technical skills, and require a lot of time as well to, of course, achieve higher availability. So that is why we at Stormatics created a utility named PG Cirrus that can be used to simplify the process of setting up operational three-node high available cluster, including most important features like load balancing, auto failover, and replication, etc. So before we actually get started, a little about me. Um, so the name is Semab Tariq, and I have been working in Postgres ecosystem for more than 6 years now. And in my career, I have worked with some well-known companies in Postgres world, like Second Quadrant and Enterprise DB. And currently, I'm working at Stormatics as a Postgres consultant. And at Stormatics, our keen focus is to provide high professional services for Postgres that include higher availability, performance tuning, and monitoring. Um, this is a kind of an agenda about what we are going to talk in today's session. First of all, we are going to talk about what high availability is, and what are the different factors that involve to achieve higher availability. Then we are going to then we are going to cover some basic concept of how actually auto failover works, what is replication, what are the different types of replication available in Postgres, and then once we build the stage, then I will move to my terminal, and we will try to deploy operational three-node high availability cluster with the help of PG Cirrus. And finally, we will conclude by mentioning some important steps or importance of high availability. And finally, we will have a question and answer session as well. So now, first of all, let's try to understand what actually high availability means. So by definition, high availability means the capability of a system to remain operational and accessible even in the time of failures or maintenance. So actually, we often have a failure of different kinds. Like we can have a database failure where our actual something can goes wrong with our actual database, and our database can goes down. The other type of failure can be a hardware failure where this is quite similar to database failure, but in this type of failure, our actual hardware or system that is used to manage or host the database can be crashed or can goes down. And the other type of failure other type of failure that we have is application failure, network failure, and power failure as well. But one thing is for sure, that it does not really matter what kind of failure we are facing, or what kind of failure is actually occurring. A high available system should keep working and be available for their users in all the possible scenarios. Um, and the other thing is, it does if there is no failure, we still need to perform some regular maintenance tasks, like we can perform some upgrades on our database, and our application must be up and running and accessible to all the users in maintenance windows as well. So finally, once we create a system that is accessible in all sort of possible scenarios, we call it a highly available cluster or system. Um, So there are a couple of common strategies that how we can actually implement high available cluster. So the number one is single node cluster. As name suggests, that we will only have a single node in this sort of cluster, and this single data node is solely responsible for managing all the sort of workload, read workload, write workload. This node will be responsible for taking the backups and saving the backups as well, and our application would be directly communicating with our this so a single node, and we will perform our regular database operations. So this apparently is not very promising setup, and of course it is only best for some few use cases, like if you have small scale application that require low availability demand and that have minimal traffic, then maybe single node cluster would be suitable for your this sort of demands. But before going to implement single node cluster, do keep in mind its disadvantages, and that include single point of failure, because of course in this sort of setup we only have a single node, and we can we can of course face some data loss as well. The other example include primary standby cluster, which we are going to demonstrate with the help of PG series. So this is a far more reliable sort of cluster that means that in this sort of cluster we have three nodes, one being our primary node and two being our standby nodes, and all the write operations